All right. Good evening, everybody. It's the Meista from Brews and Tunes, your favorite heavy metal drinking buddy. I am here tonight, very excited. I am chatting with Ross Sewage of Exhumed and Impaled, killer metal, death metal, icon. So this is very exciting for me.
No, you can't use the word icon. That is weird. That is fucking. I'm an old guy who's been around for a while. So
Right.
But yeah, icon. That's fucking weird. No, John McEntee. That's an icon and also an old guy who's been around for a long time.
Yes. All right. Well, death metal musician, favorite of mine. So very excited to chat with you, Ross. This is very cool. So cheers to you.
Cheers to you. I'm gonna. Oh God, I broke my computer. Okay.
Nice. Well, let's maybe start with in these crazy times we've been dealing with. What have you been up to recently? What like this past year? What's been going on with you?
Well, extremely recently. I just last week I just finished. I guess it's whatever. We've already posted some videos of people recording and talking about it, so I guess it's we can talk about it. But I just finished all my bass tracks for the 8th Exhumed record last week.
Nice.
So sitting by myself in the Impaled studio in front of a computer, learning songs as I went, because of course there's no practices, there's no jam sessions, there's nothing else. It's just like, all right, wrote a bunch of songs and we recorded them. Mike finished his parts in March. So the drums and the rhythm tracks are done now. And we're going to try to get it out in 2021. But I think probably wisely Relapse said everybody has something waiting for 2021.
Right.
So it's probably going to get pushed to 2022. So instead of trying to rush it like we were doing, we've taken our time and trying to get parts right. And, we're still going over lyrics, even though songs are completely done and recorded, and honing that in. So hopefully it'll be a really spectacular Exhumed release for 2022.
Excellent. Very cool. Is there anything, I don't, maybe it's too early. I don't know if there's anything you can share about, is it, thematically kind of what you guys are going with?
Yeah, no, I could share a little bit. It's not a concept record. It's, it's kind of back to, I would say mid-aughts Exhumed. The songs are a little bit like Horror was kind of like, hey, what if we Exhumed had formed in 1984 and, just did like thrash. And this one's more like, a little bit longer songs, really good, like more epic, heavy riffs, a lot of harmonies and melodies and stuff like that. So more of a traditional death metal record, I think, instead of, hey, let's thrash it out, or hey, let's do some weird conceptual thing with things. It's like, no, these are just good songs that have a good runtime, and it'll just be a good Exhumed record. And we've brought in some old talent from the past. So we asked some ex-members. So there's going to be some ex-Exhumed songs on there as well. So some collaborations with some of the old family that are no longer with the band, but they'll always be part of the family.
Nice. That's very exciting news. That's really
yeah. So I don't know if I'm supposed to say who or what or whatever. So I'm going to leave all that out and not have Matt Harvey get mad at me. But it's really cool because it's different. Some of these, ex-members, they have different songwriting styles in the first place. And then they've also matured on their own in their own ways beyond Exhumed. So they're bringing their thoughts and ideas into Exhumed and, what they would see for Exhumed. And we're kind of re-engineering that a little bit to, where we are now. And it's been a really interesting process to go through their songs and their riffs and play that kind of stuff.
Nice.
That's stuff that we wouldn't necessarily hear on an Exhumed record written by the normal cast of characters,
Right. Well, it sounds like, especially with this album, it sounds obviously very collaborative with these older members. Is that kind of an ongoing thing with Exhumed, the band, as far as, is it very collaborative in terms of the writing?
It's very collaborative in that Matt gets the final say. So if any other member writes a song, Matt gets to collaborate on it. So, he's the man. He's been in the band for 30 years. He started it. It's his baby. I've got a tune I wrote on this new one, and the first Exhumed song I've written since the 90s.
Oh, wow.
So because I rejoined 6 years ago after getting kicked out in 99. And so that's like the first song I've written in a while. And of course, Matt's like, hey, I think maybe it would go this way better with Exhumed. And who am I to argue with him? He's on his 8th record with the band.
Yeah,
it's his thing. And same with the other ex-member songs. It went through Matt, but he's always looking for collaboration in terms of he's always asking the people he works with, like, please, like, contribute. I don't want this to just be the Matt Harvey show. I want this to be songs from everybody who's in the band. I play with people I want to play with and whose musical taste I respect. So by all means contribute. So Sebastian, he joined in 2017 and I think in 2018 officially we're like, yeah, you're in because you're a cute kid and you're fun to tour with. So he's written like a few songs and he's got one on the new one as well and had one on the EP with Gruesome and one on Horror. So it is collaborative in that sense. Like everybody's welcome to bring something to the table. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, maybe it gets reworked. Maybe it gets thrown on the garbage pile.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. You had mentioned, that you left the band 1999.
Left.
Right. Yeah, left.
I was summarily kicked out. Like we were not getting along. There was a whole bunch of shit. Matt and I have talked about this at length. Basically what we came down to was like, hey, we were both fucking assholes, weren't we? So that kind of shit just happens. And luckily sometimes people can grow and chill out with their shit and become friends again. So yeah, there you go.
What was the catalyst for you rejoining?
Matt had, we talked a bit and, it had become a cordial relationship, at least finally. And then they were re-recording gore metal for the whatever anniversary. I don't remember. And he wrote me and was like, hey, we're re-recording gore metal with the new lineup, whatever the lineup they had. And he's like, but of course, you're the one who did vocals on that record and you played bass on that record. So if you at least want to come in and just do all your vocal parts, like I would be happy for you to do that. And if you say no, I'll totally fucking understand because, the relationship we've had. And I was just like, yeah. And if you'd asked me maybe 5 years earlier, I would have said, fuck you. But then I was just like, fuck yeah, this would be fun. And I don't want to look like the asshole who won't do it. So I agreed. I got some studio time and did vocals on that record. And then we used that same studio time. Mike Beams came in to do solos on it. And he hadn't been in the band since the mid-aughts. So he came in to lay down some solo work. So I hadn't hung out with him in a long time. So that was fun to kind of sit down and watch him solo and do his, his shit that he does for the record that we had recorded, 15 years previous or whatever it was. And so that was really cool. And then Matt, sorry to make a short story long. Then Matt asked me, basically Matt Slime didn't really want to do the touring anymore. He'd done a lot and was like, I think actually my life's going in a different direction. I want to do my band. And I got a life at home and my job and whatever he had going on. And Exhumed kind of keeps a rigorous touring schedule. So Matt asked me, he's like, well, Matt Slime wants to leave. And would you come in and do this tour in promotion for the gore metal re-recording? And he asked me that like 2 weeks before the fucking tour was leaving.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, you asshole. I was like, there's no fucking way I could do that. Cause he's like, oh yeah. And you'll play all the parts. And I'm like, I haven't played these songs on bass since 1999, since you kicked me out of the band. I can't get that all down in 2 weeks and other songs that you'll be playing.
Right.
So I said, I'll meet you. I said, I can meet you on the West Coast. I'll do like 5 shows where I just do vocals, and just like, help you promote it. It'll probably look good on Instagram or whatever. And they were touring with Voivod at the time. So I was like, well, cool. I'll get to see Voivod for free 5 times. Nice. So that's excellent. So I did that and we had a really good time. And then, Matt was like, well, Matt Harvey was saying, he's like, well, Matt Slime's, he asked me to fill in on another show. And this was the easy one. He's like, well, do you want to come to Mexico with us and play the show in Guadalajara? And I was like, fucking love playing Mexico. The kids are insane. It's fun. And Judas Priest was fucking headlining the festival.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah, that's an easy yes, right? Like, of course I'm going to say yes. He's like, will you learn new songs? And I was like, yeah, I'll learn new songs. Let's go fucking watch Judas Priest and party in fucking Mexico. This is great. Yeah. So he was going to ask me to rejoin at that festival. And then this is kind of a notorious story. He got arrested coming into the country because he packed his bullet belt with him.
Oh.
And they were like, this is the way people smuggle drugs. And he's like, smuggle drugs with bullets? Like that's, but it was just kind of a shakedown. as far as we understood it, whoever was in charge just kind of wanted to extort a little more money out of the promoter to get bail money from Matt. And it was kind of funny because here I am not even in the band, and Matt, the bail keeps getting extended and extended, and they're like, no, he's not out yet. He's not out yet. Well, it's like an hour before we're supposed to go on, and we have to make a decision. And I'm not even in the band. I'm with Bud Burke and Mike Hamilton and Dr. Filthy. And I just said, I was like, well, I don't want to do this, but I was like, as an outsider to Exhumed, I was like, you don't cancel in Latin America. You just don't. Right. You figure it out, you get it done, like whatever happens, because it's just really frowned upon. I think Toxic Holocaust had just had a thing going on in Municipal Waste. They had to cancel some shit, and they got rations of shit about it from Latin American fans for circumstances beyond their control. But that's that's the way it goes. So we decided to do the show, and then Bud's like, well, you've announced songs before in other bands. Why don't you do it? I was like, I'm not even in Exhumed. Like, why am I announcing songs? I was like, okay, just say fuck a lot. Hey, fucking great to see you. Hey, we're going to play some gore fucking metal. Like, this one's necro fucking maniac. I was like, I've seen Matt do his shit. I could do that. Right. So we played as a 3-piece. It didn't go awesome, but we muddled through. And then about 45 minutes later, Matt shows up at the festival, and he'd finally gotten out of jail. And we're just like, well, let's just hang out and watch Judas Priest, I guess, like whatever else is going on tonight. I think Angel Witch was playing. I don't fucking remember, a bunch of people. And so it was cool. It was a fun fest, and we were hanging out. And then we got back home, and Matt phones me, and he says, like, well, I was going to talk to you about this in Guadalajara after the show, but obviously things got a little weird. He's like, but I was going to ask you to just like rejoin the band full time. And so I said, well, I got a lot on my plate, but I was like, as long as you're, realize I've got some other projects that are kind of in line first, and things are going to kind of go that way because I'm a busy guy. He's like, well, I kind of understand that. I'm a busy guy. He's like, I also just got married, probably not going to go out for 6 months on the road anymore. And I was like, okay, well, that all works for me. So I rejoined, recorded Death Revenge. And then, of course, the very first tour, I'd already had a tour booked. So Matt Slime got roped back into Exhumed to play one more tour. And then I pretty much have handled most of it after that. Oh, also Matt Slime got to go to Russia, and I didn't get to go to Russia. I was pretty pissed about that one. But I couldn't do it. It's just, that's kind of the way it is when you're an underground musician, you're playing in multiple bands, and, I guess I'm not super disposable. So they wait for me, but yeah. So that's the rejoining Exhumed. Sorry about that. That's kind of a long story, but that's the way it went.
That's very cool. It's very interesting that's how it came to be. That's great. That's very cool. You're back.
Yeah, I'm really stoked it did too, because then a lot of my other bands have become somewhat inactive, and Exhumed has actually kept kind of busy during the pandemic. We released video. We got some multi-camera video footage that we were able to edit to put together into one show. And then we went ahead and recorded a whole new live set, 2 live sets in November. And then we were able to release one as our own standalone show, and the other one was our benefit for Ryan Butler from previously of Landmine Marathon. Yeah. And so we were able to contribute to his benefit because he got a liver transplant, and he got it, and we're all very excited that he got it. And
yeah, that's great.
I hope we helped in some way to bring a smile to his face and make his liver be scared that if it didn't behave, that we'd fucking come for it this time.
Nice. Very good. Very good. Yeah, that's awesome. And you're also, obviously I mentioned in the intro that you obviously have been in Impaled for quite a long time.
Yeah, since about 1997. I joined in 97.
Oh, okay, cool.
98. No, they've been around since 97. I apologize. I did some fill-in shows for them in 98, and then officially joined by 99. That's what it was. Okay.
And is there anything currently happening with Impaled? Anything in the works right now?
Nothing. Impaled's an interesting monster. Things went the way for Impaled that it did, and we had some bad luck with labels and such. And we have old releases that we can't legally get out. We've tried dangling money in front of people, and they won't take it because they're assholes or whatever. So a couple records sit in limbo, don't exist anymore. Essentially, we did some good touring, off our last full length original songs, and then it was just kind of like, well, people started having lives. Raul went to college. Jason had a baby, got married. Sean's had a child. So we do stuff. We've played some festivals here and there. There's been a smidgen of songwriting, but nothing where we're focused enough necessarily to say like, hey, we're going to record a record now. But gotcha. Impaled has never broken up. We're not dead. We were supposed to play MDF in 2020. It didn't happen. And then we started jamming with Leon Del Muerte again, our old member. Because we did a re-recording. I basically did two re-recordings in 1 year. One was for Impaled, and then Exhumed contacted me about theirs. I was like, well, this is fucking hilarious. This is just, my life is just on a weird repeat, like night court in the middle of the afternoon or some shit. And, so he's been with us. And if we did anything going forward, it's always going to be with him. He's essentially a full member for whatever the fuck that means for a band that doesn't barely ever play shows. Played a couple in 2019, and, we're scheduled for 2021 or 2022 MDF. So we're still on board for that.
Oh, good.
And then we'll see what happens. Like I said, a couple members have written some songs, and I don't know. We'll see if the push is there for us to actually get off our asses and do it. But we still have a practice place. We still hang out together. We still do stuff. Like, as I don't know. It's a weird band. Like, we just got lazy.
Oh, that's cool. And you're busy. You're a busy guy. You got a lot going on. I mean, you're also an associate of the kind of the mysterious Ghoul band.
Yes, I do associate with them. I do some work for them. And they're a bunch of assholes, but I stand behind their music. I like what they do, so I keep working with them anyways.
Nice. Good for you. Very cool. Let's maybe go kind of way back in time. How did you originally get started in music? What was the impetus there?
Well, in high school, I actually went to high school with Cole Jones from Exhumed. Oh. So I was just kind of starting to. I was a little bit of a late bloomer because I don't know. I didn't have an older brother into metal, or I never found it on my own. Going for a while, and then I just kind of started getting into hard rock, and I was more of a dork. I listen to like cartoons. I still listen to cartoon soundtracks all the time. I'm still a dork, but like I was like getting into stuff where, it was like the most heavy metal I ever heard growing up was, the Transformers soundtrack from the old movie, and Spectre General and all those like bands you've never heard of ever again. And then I started to get into it kind of independently, and I was like, this Metallica band's pretty cool. So, yada, yada. And getting into like heavy industrial, I was really into Ministry. And then I met Cole Jones, and Cole Jones was like, oh, you like, and I was growing my hair out, had that awkward high school, whatever. Like one day I came to school, I'd always used to style my hair. And then one day I came and they were like, wait, you kind of have long hair now. And I was like, I know, I've been growing it. I think I'm getting into metal. And so I was into that stuff, and I had a PE class with Cole, and we started talking, and, kind of doofy metalhead looking outcast. And he's like, oh, you're like into like Ministry and Metallica and all that kind of stuff. Here, check out this Carcass tape. So he gave me Symphonies of Sickness tape, and I was like, it was kind of like the Memorex guy. I was just like that with my fucking hair getting blown back. Like, what the fuck is this? Like fuck Whiplash, fuck, Jump at the Fire. I was like, this shit's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, and here's Godflesh, and here's Napalm Death, and here's all this other shit. So I took this giant leap from like, kind of like, basically one of the easiest metal bands to get into, and, and stuff like Steve Vai and weird shit like that. But not weird, but I skipped the entire like going through thrash and all this other stuff and went straight to just like hardcore death metal and grindcore. And I was just like, my mind was blown. I started hanging out with those guys a lot. Cole eventually brought me in to hang out with Matt Harvey because I was into the role-playing games and stuff like that. So we went over and liked comic books, and we talked comics a lot at school. And so he's like, well, come hang out with my bandmate Matt. And we play like we play Marvel superheroes role-playing game. So I started playing with them, and so like those two became like my best friends growing up, and I hung out with them all the time. And eventually, everyone's playing music, and I was just like, I want to play music. This is bullshit. And so I kind of like, Matt helped me start like a band. I bought a drum machine. I was kind of doing like an industrial thing, and with like guitar. So I'd like hum riffs to Matt. And eventually he's like, hey, if you just take that first string and just tune it down a little bit, like you can play a power chord with one finger. So that's how I got started. So no wonder I ended up on bass, right? And with the easiest thing. And then Matt didn't have time for it. So found some other high school guys. We played like 2 shows at like high school talent shows or whatever. And the guys from Exhumed came to one of them, and one of the songs had death metal vocals. And I was doing these death metal vocals, and Matt and Cole were like, "Oh fuck, we didn't know he could do that." Like he never did that, like just hanging around with us. So they were kind of looking for a vocalist anyways, because they're the previous vocalist had left, and they were like, "Well, do you want to join? Like, you already drive us everywhere because you're the only one we know with a license, so that kind of works out perfectly." And you want to do vocals, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, I definitely, of course, I wanted to hang out with you guys and play more music." And eventually, kind of got folded in. Matt Widener of Citizen and some other bands. He's been in a bunch of weird bands. He was playing bass then. And he eventually left the band, and I picked up the bass and recorded on the In the Name of Gore EP.
Oh yeah.
So because I've been kind of just dicking around trying to learn and get better. And then by that time, he left the band maybe like a couple weeks before we recorded that. So Matt just gave a bunch of shit to me on binder sheet paper. And so I learned the songs and recorded. That was my first one on bass. Hadn't even played a show yet on bass, and just kind of went from there. So that was how I got into music. I'm completely poor. I have poor skills. I have no fundamentals. I've just like gone on pure inertia, and it's like, oh, this song's harder. Well, then I have to learn how to play that song. And it's like I never practice scales. I'm consider myself like very much a punk rock bassist that has had to just learn technical death metal. So
gotcha. That's cool. That's really interesting. Are there any specific bass players that have inspired you, or people that you listen to?
Well, when I look, and like I said, I got into it as more of like a punk. I was just like, fuck it, I'm just going for it. But like looking back, a lot of my influences are going to be the ones that I really, really like. I mean, there's a lot of good metal bass players, but I look to stuff like, I really like the shit that like Stu Cook did in like Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Oh,
like that's like beautiful bass playing. It's, as I've become more educated, it's like it's playing to the rhythm section, but it's also playing along with the melody of the song. And that's kind of the stuff I really gravitate towards. And I mean, a lot of people give him shit, but like I really love the stuff that Gene Simmons did in early Kiss. And who knows if he even played it, because that's the way that band kind of worked. But he played a lot of like, Ace and Paul were going off on one thing, and Gene's kind of doing another thing. And I don't know if he deserves the credit for that. Like I said, they were kind of a collaborative band, hiring songwriters and such. So, but like, I really like that kind of old 70s style of bass playing, where the bass is not just playing along with the guitar and showing you that he can also do sweeps or whatever.
Yeah.
He's playing rhythm. He's playing along with the drums, but also maintaining the melody and the groundwork for the band. So that's the kind of stuff I've always gravitated towards. Like Steve DiGiorgio, amazing bass player. I don't want to sound anything like him. Right. Like he is just all over the place. And I'm like, wow, that's phenomenal what you can do. But I just kind of want to rock along with the drummer and like and have something I can headbang with and like dance around on stage. I call it dancing. I think it's dancing. It's people try to look all tough and like strut across the stage. I'm like, that's dancing.
Yeah.
You're dancing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's funny. I like that. Well, let's kind of maybe switch gears a little bit. You are, and this is fascinating. I find this very fascinating, very cool. You're a huge collector, and you've got some action figures behind you, some big ones.
I did. I strategically placed some of the bigger toys that I have because they look better on the Zoom meeting. So there you go. But
so I understand you have a fairly sizable G.I. Joe collection, correct?
I've got a pretty. I was like, okay. In the metal world, I probably have the hugest G.I. Joe collection. Cool. I'm sorry, Gus Rios from Gruesome. You have an incredible collection, but mine's bigger. Nice. We talk all the time about that. And Travis from Cattle Decapitation is another big G.I. Joe collector. But like, I'm pretty sure I have more than them because I was a fastidious little kid and I did not blow my shit up with firecrackers.
Oh, nice.
So all the stuff I've added to it was like I already had a sizable collection that was just sitting up in my parents' attic waiting to be pulled back till I had space for it. And so, yeah, if you were to ask me, essentially I've got everything from 82 to 86 and then a whole lot more.
Wow.
So that's the best way I can describe it. So if you look at any catalog of G.I. Joe shit from 82 to 86 and you go, does Ross have that? Yes, he has that. And then he's got a bunch of other shit too on top of that.
And this includes not just the figures, but the tanks, the
bases, the little missile pack things and all that shit. Yeah, I've got all that stuff. I picked it up through the years. Some punk rocker was giving up his toys, and I was drinking with him at his house in the early 2000s, and he's like, "You want these?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll buy those off you, whatever." And then a little bit here and a little bit there, and then when I started going out on tour with Exhumed again, of course, Exhumed is hitting. I mean, God bless America or whatever, but it's like I've been around there. I've seen most everything there is to see in America that I can see in, out around the club in Phoenix, Arizona. It gets a little boring after a while. Or I've been to the Liberty Bell. I've seen the Liberty Bell. So what else am I going to do in Philadelphia? So when I started going out with Exhumed again, I'm getting older. It's like, okay, I've been in these cities before. I don't want to sit around drinking all day. This is stupid. It's like, well, I wonder if there's a toy shop nearby. Oh shit, there is a toy shop nearby. I'm going to go check that out. I'm like, all right, that's cool. I wonder if this one little guy. And then that in 2019, I went off the rails, and then I was going to tons of toy shops. I found them I was looking them up before we got to the city. And I'm like, all right, sound check's done. I'll see you guys in an hour. I'm walking over to this other place. So then I was really able to complete shit I didn't have and add a bunch of stuff. And poor Mikey Hamilton, he's kind of the trailer, him and Dr. Filthy were kind of in charge of the trailer pack. And I'm like, I'm really sorry. I need that t-shirt box to put this jet into, and please put it on top of everything. And if you break it, I'll murder you. He's like, you son of a bitch. I got more shit to deal with in here. I'm like, we sold shirts. It's okay. There's more room now. This is totally cool. Yeah. So yeah, mostly G.I. Joe. I also like to, a few other things, Transformers, some old Remco figures. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in the 80s in the ultimate toy era. And that was a big thing to me, and playing with toys was a big thing. And I would set up scenarios, and and now I kind of get to do that on stage a little bit. We set up scenarios. Exhumed has gags. Ghoul, who I've worked with, I've helped them set up gags for their show, and get to create monsters and build stuff. And so it's just, those are just kind of big action figures, right? Yeah, that's all that shit is. So to me, it's part and parcel. It's just all right, I'm just into this, and this is the same kind of thing. It's just bigger. Yeah,
I think that works well. That seems that would transfer really well to the stage. I think that's brilliant. That's great. Are there any? Do you have you said you have pretty much everything from 82 to 86. Are there any white whales? Is there's something out there that you really want? Maybe if it's still in packaging or something like that. Original.
I don't like packaging. I like to set my shit up. I like to play with it. I like to take photos. That's something I've kind of separated it out from the world of metal, but I have an Instagram and a Twitter account. It's at Doc Sewage, DOKSEWAGE, where I do toy photos, and I set up dumb scenarios, and I'll drag these G.I. Joes out to a county park and throw mud at them. And, it's mostly jokes. It's all bad jokes. It's not I'm not oh, I got to make it look like this is real military. I'm no, there's okay, Godzilla steps in and he's going to fucking stomp a G.I. Joe or whatever. Cause that's, I have fun with the shit. So, but I started doing that, especially during quarantine, cause the fuck else was I going to do? Yeah. I used to go to practice 3 nights a week, and I got nothing. So, and I got to get outside and go hiking and do something to my job was half of what it used to be. So I started taking way more and more toy photos and getting really into it. So white whales though. There's a 12-inch, this is going to be an obscure toy. It was from Parker Brothers, 12-inch ROM toy. It's just a one-off. It has nothing to do with G.I. Joe. It's a 12-inch toy. It has electronic sounds. It barely moves. It's a total piece of shit. But it used to be in the comics ads, in all the comics, you'd see the ads, and they had a long-running comic book for the character that ran way longer than the toy was on toy shelves. And some reason I want that piece of shit. So it's not all G.I. Joe. I got this. Where is this? No, there it is. This Godzilla, that's a Shogun Warriors Godzilla. I've had that since I was a kid.
Nice.
The Unicron, that was one I ordered in 2019. I happened to have some cash. It was like the first year I wasn't broke because I did a really good, successful Kickstarter when I wrote and drew a comic book for Ghoul.
Oh, nice.
So we did the comic book for Ghoul. I have a little, there we go. This is the Ghoul comic.
Oh yeah, cool.
So wrote and drew the entire thing and did a Kickstarter for it in partnership with Ghoul, and we did really well. So I had a little money, so I spent way too much money on the biggest Transformer ever made, Unicron.
Very cool.
And that was some weird third-party bootleg fucking thing. Anyways, So here's the thing: I don't smoke weed. I don't play video games. I like movies and I like toys. So when I tell people that, they're like, how many toys do you have? Like what? And I'm like, yeah, I've got all this. Like, how much is that worth? I'm like, well, it's probably worth this. And they're like, how do you afford all that? I'm like, how much do you spend on weed a week, dude?
Right.
And they're like, oh yeah, I spend hundreds a week on weed. And I'm like, yeah, I don't smoke weed. I do all the same shit as you, but I don't smoke weed. It's not a judgment call. If smoking weed is your thing, that's great. I think it stinks. Stinks like stinks. I can't stand the smell. And every time I've tried to smoke or eat weed, which I've tried many times, it does not agree with me. It makes me crazy. It's like the best way I can describe it to a weed smoker is it's like, your worst LSD trip. That's what weed does to me. I don't know why. But it's like I start spinning. I see things. I'm in a corner tapping my foot trying to find gravity. I can't smoke weed. So the small blessing of that is I have a little bit more of a spending budget for a bunch of bullshit like this.
That's good. That's a good thing. That's a very cool thing. And you mentioned movies as well. And you're actually from what I understand, kind of an aficionado of monster movies, correct?
I'm not going to call myself an icon. I'm not going to call myself an aficionado. Okay. Everybody's got blind spots, but yes, right. I love horror movies, and especially I'm not as people. If I love horror movies, Italian Fulci, and it's like Fulci's a piece of shit. His movies are a mess. They barely make sense. I like good horror movies. I like fun horror movies. I like stuff like the classics like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, of course. And then like the Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. Is it a horror movie? I don't know, but it's a fucking buttload of fun.
Oh yeah.
So I'm into shit like that. And the fun, like the old Peter Jackson horror movies. Like I saw Dead Alive in its first run in the theater and my mind was fucking blown. And old Romero zombie movies. And, so aficionado is a hard call because I don't watch everything. I like really good shit. I will watch some garbage. But so yeah, I love sci-fi and horror and monsters and shit like that. Yeah. I don't know how I've met people who listen to death metal. I'm sure you have too, who they're like, oh, I don't like horror movies. And you're like, have you looked at your record collection, the covers?
Yeah.
How could you just dismiss that genre?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
It's a weird thing. Like, I don't understand where these people come from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have I have horror right here, and which is obviously, kind of it has that it looks like and is supposed to look like a VHS of a horror film. Yeah, no, that was an ode to how me and Matt Harvey grew up, and and probably Mike Hamilton, I would guess too, and Sebastian definitely not because he's like 15 years younger than all of us, but we would go to the video store and you would not Blockbuster. We didn't go to Blockbuster. You went to the neighborhood store run by a weird dude with smoky glasses. Yeah. And you're this, 12-year-old kid and you like kind of wander into the horror section and the dude doesn't care because he's probably stoned out of his mind. Right. And you're like looking at all these covers and you're like, oh, Terror Train, that looks so scary. And like, and like all these like shitty fucking slasher films like Sleepaway Camp. Ooh, there's blood on that knife. I wonder if he'll let me rent it. And then you take it up and you rent it under your family account and he's like, gives you a little wink from behind his smoky glasses. And you're like, shit, I got to wait till the parents go to bed and I'm going to watch this. I'm going to stay up all night and watch this movie and be scared out of my fucking mind.
that was like, yeah, that's what that record was supposed to harken to. It's the first Exhumed record that ever mentioned zombies. I'm not sure if anyone ever picked up on that, but everything's been Exhumed's always been like, here's what would happen if you dug up a body and you're a sicko. That's essentially Exhumed.
Yeah.
But the horror stretched the boundaries a little bit. And there's actually like, hey, let's talk about Reanimator a little bit. Well, just a little bit. We're not going to become a zombie band, but we're going to have a little fun with this. This is the shit we grew up with and had good times, watching and doing that kind of shit. Like the back cover, I believe that was part of my VHS collection. We had to take photos of while we were, the cover, all the art was being done while we were in South America. And so it had my partner had her take photos of our VHS collection so that we could get that to the artist so he could really have something to work off of to make like this kind of fun back cover. I don't know if can you show that really quick?
Yeah,
so the back cover, the cover is fabulous, but the back cover is like fucking hilarious. Like the guy did such a good job. The way the songs are incorporated, but then it's also like Alpha episodes on like home dubbed tapes and bullshit. Yeah, it's good shit. It's super fun. He did such really a good job on that.
Yeah, like the Yellowstone 1987 as well.
Yeah, we had a really fun time working on that one.
Yeah. Gremlins with commercials.
Yeah, that's my favorite. I used to edit out the commercials, taping stuff when I grew up, but like when I get bootleg tapes and it has the commercials, all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, this is gold. I should have saved some of these crappy commercials.
Yeah.
I have a bootleg of like the Star Wars holiday special. I got it at like a comic convention in the 90s. Wow. I mean, which you can find it on YouTube now, and that's great. And it's not great, it's terrible, but it's great to watch. It's hilarious. But like I have a copy with all the commercials, and it's like there's an ad for this dumb robot called Tobor, and it's spinning around in the commercial, and it's like at the end of it's like Tobor, it's robot spelled backwards. You're like, it's the dumbest thing, and it's just like, oh fuck, the 70s were so shitty. It's so great.
Yeah, such a weird. Yeah, I've got, and this is later, but my brother taped. I think it was when Sci-Fi Channel remade Dune, and then they did Children of Dune as well. And so he taped those for me off of, because at the time I didn't have cable, and so he taped them for me. And and they have all the commercials. He didn't edit them, and I haven't watched them for a while. But the last time I watched them, I was in hysterics. Like some of these commercials.
You want a real like time capsule into any period of America. It's like just check out the fucking commercials.
Oh yeah. Totally.
You get an idea. I mean, you go back to the 50s, you can see like old 50s commercials. I love watching this shit online and like watching weird old toy commercials. Like in the 50s, like all the stuff, it's like, hey, Pall Mall, it helps you breathe. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, right.
Like just shit like that. And just, you really get keyed into just where life was then. And it can be really interesting and more illuminating than even the movies and the TV shows at the time. It's like, what were people buying? And how were advertisers selling it to them? What spoke to the people of America? And it's like these bullshitty, awful fucking commercials. It's great.
Yeah. My wife and I were in Seattle, downtown Seattle, just wandering around, and we wanted a beer, so we went into a micro brewery, a little pub, and they had beer commercials up on television screens, but from the 50s.
Oh, that's great.
Super sexist.
Terribly sexist. Awful sexism.
Yeah, and the Hams commercials with the bear and the cartoon bear. And, it was really entertaining to watch. But it was cringeworthy. I
got to go the one time I toured Japan with Impaled. Our host Naru from Butcher ABC, he took us to this cool restaurant. And he's like, "This is the cool restaurant for the kids, like the college kids." At the time, I guess we were kids. This was like 15 years ago, and so we went there, and it was like set up as like basically a immediately post World War II Japanese restaurant. Oh. So they had old TVs, like little TVs like this big, playing like black and white Astro Boy, and like old weird Japanese commercials. It was like that kind of it was almost like it was like an American 50s diner in a way, but like the Japanese version. And the food there was bizarre. Like they had, instead of beer, you got shoju, and you mixed it with this other shit because, of course, post-World War II Japan couldn't get beer because of supply chain problems. I don't know. Maybe 2 United States atomic bombs had gone off in their country recently. So there were some issues there.
Yeah.
And then the menu had shit like scorpions, deep fried scorpions, sauteed crickets, a sparrow cooked beak to foot that Raul from Impaled ate the whole goddamn thing.
Wow.
He went because he grew up in Mexico and they ate every part of the cow. They didn't give a fuck. So he ate menudo and brains and and all that shit. So he was just like, yeah, no problem. And we were with a couple guys from General Surgery and they were like, yeah, we're going to be badasses too. I'm like, oh God, oh God, oh God. You were not that big of badasses. You win, Raul.
Oh,
so I've been a vegetarian for 30 fucking years, but I've decided that 6-legged cricketers are on my plate. So I ate the crickets.
Oh, you did?
They were delicious. The legs are a little weird when the legs get stuck in your teeth, but I look forward to the day when there's at least a weird little corner of America that will cook and serve bugs. I'll eat bugs. I think bugs are fucking great. I don't eat any other animals. It's not a moral thing necessarily. It's fuck cows. They're meant to be eaten. If you like cows, eat cows. I don't give a shit. I don't want to eat them. But bugs, yeah, fuck those motherfuckers. I'm like a guy. I'm like a soldier from Starship Troopers. I'm doing my part. I will eat the shit out of some fucking bugs.
That's great. That's funny. I was about to ask you if you partook of anything on the menu. Obviously.
Oh, that was it. I couldn't eat the scorpion.
No,
because it came out served, and I was like, oh shit, that looks. At the time, I had a pet scorpion that a friend had brought me from the desert that miraculously lived for like 5 fucking years. I thought it was gonna like live for like a month, and I'm like, well, that'll be a laugh, and it's gonna die like a bug. And I was like, no, I had that guy for like 5 fucking years, and so I was like, Jesus Christ, you will not die. And it's not like a fun pet. You can't like pet him and have a good time. So he just sat in a terrarium, and I fed him crickets. But I could not eat him. You know what I'm saying? He's right there. He's deep fried. But I was like, oh, that's Frankie. I can't eat you, Frankie. That's fucked up.
Yeah, I can see that makes sense. I understand that. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Think of if somebody tried to serve me a pug, I wouldn't be able to eat a pug. You know, we have a pug, so I'm like, I can't.
Yeah,
eat a pug.
Yeah, you could. But could you eat a nameless piece of meat that they said was a pug?
Oh, me? No. If I knew it was a pug, no. All
right. Could you eat a dog in general? Just a random question.
Probably not.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a line in in Western culture. I'm not judging. It's a weird line. Western culture. Actually, Western culture goes even further. Like that, we don't eat dogs. We don't eat. Basically, prey animal are forbidden. Like you're not going to eat dogs. You're not going to eat wolves. But then we also won't, like, people who eat meat won't eat horses. And that one I really don't get. Because what is a horse but just like a big giant deer without horns?
Right. Yeah.
No, it's the majestic horse. It's like, guess what? They still just munch on grass.
Yeah.
They apparently they taste pretty good. Fucking eat a horse. Don't be such a fucking asshole about it. They're not actually that much smarter than cows. They're just a little more trainable. Yeah. That's it.
They're dicks. They're all dicks. They're all assholes. Horses are mean.
I do not trust fucking horses. I've grown up around a lot of horses. My sister was into riding horses, so I spent time around horses. I've also been thrown from 3 or 4 horses. I do not trust those motherfuckers.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't trust them a second. I've been thrown. I could have been Christopher Reeved many times.
Oh, jeez.
I'm just like, well, we're not doing that anymore. I'm 45. My bones break a lot easier now. I don't bounce back. Fuck that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you there. Well, I don't want to keep you all night, but I do have a few other questions. And one, I don't know if you want to go here with this or not, but one thing I've noticed, I'm friends with you on Facebook. You post a lot of cool food. You cook quite a bit. It looks like, since we're speaking about food.
I do love cooking. Cooking is fucking awesome, and I've always cooked. I've always loved cooking, but I've never. It's like the pandemic. Like everyone's gotten pretty good at something. Like and I've also always baked. So that was the thing that pissed me off in the pandemic, because I've been baking my bread for like five years, I think, where I was just like, I want to bake bread. And I got a cast iron Dutch oven, and I was really excited. And I was like, oh, cool, I can start baking my own bread, because I love fresh baked bread. And when that's the thing, it's probably something I really picked up in Europe, especially because when you go to like a gas station in Europe for like, say it's like 3 a.m, you're on tour. We stop at the gas station in Europe, and they're like, you go to get like a sandwich there, and the bread is all fresh baked. Oh, and I'm sure it's from dough and shit like that. But it's like you come to get a sandwich at the gas station in America, like, what do you get? It's been packaged somewhere. It's been frozen. It's been shipped. It's been put on the. In Europe, they make the sandwiches in this gas station. They're not fabulous. It's, you know, a little bit of cheese, a little bit, maybe a tomato, better tomatoes than we have usually, but you know, shit like that. But it's like the bread is good. And I'm like, I really got into the bakeries there. I spent quite a bit of time with my friends in Dresden. You know, I went out there and did a New Year's out there and just partied for like a couple weeks. And it's like, you know, like they're like, hey, it's breakfast. We're walking to the bakery and going to get fresh bread. It's like, we don't really do that here.
Yeah.
Like that's another, sorry, to tangent upon tangent. In 2002, Impaled toured with Decapitated from Poland.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah. And so, and I think circumstances happened and Earache said like, hey, are you willing to drive these guys around? We'll give you some extra money if you guys can. We don't want to hire a driver essentially. And they paid us fucking nothing, but we were so fucking broke. We needed all the money we could get. So it was like three drivers for like 2 vans, and nobody in Decapitated could drive. They were like 19-year-old kids from Poland. And it's like, I think it was their first time I'm certain it was their first time in America, because we were showing them things that blew their mind, like bread in plastic. Oh. They'd never seen like a loaf of, you know, home pride bread.
Right.
That was like, they were like, bread. I told them, they're like, we want bread. And I was like, well, here you go. And they're like, Ross. And then sometimes they called me daddy at the time. They were daddy, because we had a lot of fun. And they're like, daddy, bread does not come in plastic. And I was like, here it fucking does. And also cheese comes in a can. So we're going to get this bread and you're going to try fucking Cheese Whiz for the first time in your motherfucking lives. Nice. And they're like, this is good. It's not cheese. I was like, no, it's with a Z. Of course it's not cheese. Like, it's right there on the package. Yeah. So we had a lot of fun, like introducing it. You know, we got some shitty hotel in Dallas and they're like, Ross, why is mirror on ceiling? I'm like, well, let me tell you about the birds and the bees. Yeah. Like, guys, whoa, shit. So we had a lot of fun with them, but like that kind of shit. And then like, you know, there's a couple bakeries that have, you know, it's become a little bit more of a thing. But then I was just like, I really like fresh bread. So I started baking like 5 years ago, and I really like cooking. And I was with someone who also enjoyed cooking. So we really got into it and started, you know, challenging ourselves, and we would cook together or try to impress each other with our meals. And then that upped in, you know, the pandemic. And then, you know, I guess I probably could have been taking photos forever, but it's like one of those things where I'm like, took some photo. I'm like, wow, I really nailed this pizza. That looks pretty good. I'm going to post a photo of it. And people are like, it seemed to make people happy. Yeah. And then I've also had, but more importantly was, you know, when one of those times I posted a food thing and someone was like, oh, hey, I decided, I saw your post and I decided to try to make my own, you know, my own scratch dough pizza. And I'm like, that's fucking awesome. Did I just actually inspire someone to like do something positive? I mean, I think cooking is a really positive thing. Cooking is a relationship with your food. Maybe I'm going to get a little Food Network here, but it really is a relationship with your food, and it's knowing what's going into your body. And it's like a little hippy dippy, but it's like my bread. If you were to get my bread and see, you know, the ingredients list, 5 pronounceable ingredients.
Nice. Yeah.
That's it. It's yeast. Well, now it's sourdough. So I don't know. There's a million bacteria in there. Who fuck knows? Flour, salt, water. So like four fucking ingredients in my bread. Now go look at a package of Home Pride and tell me what's on there. Yeah. You know, like they're like riboflavin, and then, you know, they add some good stuff, but some of it's just preservatives. I don't know what that's doing to my body. It's not the biggest deal, but it's like, if I can make my own bread and it tastes better, like why the fuck would I not do that? Or if I can make my own pasta and it tastes better and it's a fun, it's kind of, for some people, it's a chore. I have fun with it. I really like watching things come together. I like coming up with different spice combinations. I like, you know, thinking of like, God, I really love Indian food. I should try to make some aloo palak. Why the fuck not?
Yeah.
Like, awesome. And just get it. And like, oh, garam masala. Now I know what this spice does in something. So it's fun. It's like, it's, you know, I got into like fixing amps and stuff like that because a lot of it was money. I didn't have money to pay someone to do it. So I learned to do it. So I'm just kind of like a guy. I like to learn to do things, and becoming a better cook was a fun thing to do. Like I like seeing how this goes together. And as you get better and better at it, you're like, hey, I'm going to wing this one. Like, and then you're like, holy shit, I made an amazing dish. And
Yeah.
food is so essential to life. Like, I want it to be good. I want it to taste good. I want to enjoy it thoroughly. And that's not to say I love Taco Bell. Like, it's a thing. I love Taco Bell. When we're on the road, I'm happy to stop at a Taco Bell. Right. It's great. It's also garbage. I'm not averse to garbage, but it's like, it's also fun to challenge yourself and do something else. The one thing I'm really averse to is going to a restaurant and paying like $30 for some shit that I could probably cook at home.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Like, going out for sushi is the biggest. First of all, I'm a vegetarian, so going out to sushi for me is already a waste. It's like, oh, cucumber roll.
Yeah. Well,
it's like, this is bullshit. I'm paying like $10 for 6 pieces of cucumber roll. Fuck that. Sushi rice can't be that hard to make. So I learned to make it. I learned to roll sushi. Is it as pretty? No. Does it taste the same? Yes. And can I make a shit ton of it and absolutely stuff my gut full of it for like $10?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can make like 10 rolls for what it would cost for like 2 nights out of the sushi place.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the cooking thing. And I found that people seem to get a joy out of it. I guess I'm a performer on probably every aspect of my life in some regard. Like, I've been on the stage, I've played music. It's like, all right, well, we're online, I'm performing. Check out this fucking dish I made. It looks fucking fantastic. And people are like, oh my God. And if that inspires them to make something, that's fucking rad. That's awesome. Like, hey, I should try and cook a little bit more instead of going and, paying $10 for avocado toast or whatever the fuck it is,
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. I love it.
So sorry to go off on that, but I do love food and I love cooking. Like, I really like cooking a whole lot.
That's awesome. I love it. So again, I don't want to keep you all night. So I'll wrap this up, but I have one question for you. One last question for you. So my blog, my page is Brews and Tunes, where I pair craft beer with heavy metal albums. And I don't know if you're a beer drinker or craft beer drinker, but
I'm not a craft beer aficionado as much as I am horror movies, but I love good craft beer. Yes, absolutely. Except for Hefeweizen. Fuck that. It should never exist. I fucking hate Hefeweizen. Nice. I do not like wheat beer. It's fucking gross. It's just disgusting. Like, I don't know what. If you got to put a lemon in your beer to make it like palatable, fuck you. No, beer should be delicious because you get it. It comes out of the tap and you're like, oh, that's fucking good. Yeah. You don't need to add a lemon to it. Cocktails. That's where you add a lemon or a lime. You don't fucking add it to a goddamn beer.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So Ross Sewage is hanging out on a Friday night, Saturday night. What craft beer do you crack open and what album do you spin?
Oh, well, are you asking me for like a brand name? I'm not sure I could do that.
Or
actually,
style. Like
I could maybe name a few. Okay, as far as craft beer goes, I really like IPAs.
Cool.
Which apparently, according to some Facebook meme I saw, it means you're a serial killer or something. Like, if you like IPAs, you've seen that, right? Like,
yeah.
And I mean, I don't get me wrong. I love a lager. One of my favorite lagers is it a lager? No, Pilsner. I love Brannick out of the Czech Republic. It's a cheap Pilsner. It's very common there, and it is fucking refreshing as hell.
Nice.
So I love like a good Czech Pilsner. I can go for a good triple, a Belgian. Like, but of course, you do need that in a small glass because if you pound those fuckers, you're going down. But they're good. But in terms of like, if I want to taste something, if I really want to taste it, I want an IPA. I love that hoppy flavor.
Yeah, me too.
It's so good to me. And apparently I'm a psycho. So fucking deal with it. And apparently also I'm going to grow tits someday if I drink too much IPA. Do you read that? Yeah,
I read that too.
Somehow I'm like, well, fuck it. I mean, it could look pretty good. I love playing with tits. So why not have a pair of my own? And, but I'm trying to think of like brands I buy because sometimes I just go get it. I mean, there are really good. There's Faction in Oakland. There's Ghost Town Brewery. That's fantastic. They just opened a second location. They've done some amazing stuff. And then there's also Faction Brewery in Alameda. I got a friend who works there. That place makes some incredible beers. As far as stuff I would find at the grocery store, if I were to be kicking down by myself, it would either probably be what is it called, the Elysium Space Dust IPA?
Oh yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yep.
That's a good one I like. and then the Racer 5.
Ooh.
Racer 5 if I want to get drunk, and then Racer X if I need to get obliterated. If I don't want to remember things the next day, I will go Racer X. That shit knocks you on your goddamn ass.
Yeah.
That shit's really good. The Space Dust is a little more of a chill IPA, but because of everything that comes with the IPA, including beer weight gain and titty growth, when I get an IPA, I'm looking for anything 7 to 8% at least.
Okay. Cool.
Because I figure, why waste the calories on 6%?
There you go.
Like I might as well get fucking drunk if I'm gonna drink an IPA.
I like
so I got a friend. He looks at the menu, those menus, and they put calories on menus.
Oh yeah.
And he's such a cheap fuck. And he looks at the calories on the menu, and he'll buy the thing he'll do a calculation in his head to get the most calories for the least amount of the money. Everyone else is doing the opposite.
Right.
Everyone's like, I gotta watch my weight, so I gotta get something with low calories. He's like, no, I need more calories per dollar so that I'm not wasting my money. I'm the same way with alcohol.
All right.
Or at least with beer. I'm not trying to get drunk every night, but if I am trying to get drunk, I'm going for a high alcohol IPA. So, and I'll chew it on the way down.
There you go.
Oh, and the album I spin, let's see, on a Friday night, and I'm drinking, probably either be, Jesus, that's a hard call. Something from Creedence, maybe Willie Nelson, or maybe Razor.
Cool. Very cool.
So that's a hard one to pick. It kind of depends on how the week went.
Right. Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Well, Ross, this was a pleasure chatting with you. I really enjoyed it.
Absolute pleasure chatting with you too, sir.
And
so
looking forward to the album.
I'm going to throw plugs.
Yes, please. I'll include websites in the description, so everybody look down. There'll be descriptions, or in the description there'll be links to various pages.
Exhumed, look for a new album in 2022. There may be a tour this year. We'll see how it pans out. Of course, kind of months and months away, but we'll see how that pans out. Fingers crossed that a bunch of Americans aren't assholes and go get their vaccinations.
Yeah.
So, and let's see, Impaled, I guess in 2022 we'll play. We'll see what happens. The band Ghoul that I associate with, there's some stuff coming up. There will be a couple releases this year. Nothing recorded necessarily, but there's some cool shit coming out. There will be some vinyl, some interesting stuff, and maybe some video stuff too. Cool. From what I hear from the Catacombs, that's what I hear. And as always, the Ghoul comic is available on my website, drsewage.com, along with tips and tricks on how to fix an amp. Maybe I'll start just making it a cooking blog. I don't know.
I like it. Love it. Well, thank you very much, sir. It was awesome talking to you.
You too, sir. Cheers.
Cheers.